Gather round, my children, and let me rant about history. If you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Tidkmeyer, wrote for Pathos for nearly 10 years. History has been a obsession of mine for some years. I do a lot of reading on history, and therefore I sometimes get upset when I see how Hollywood treats certain historical, very various things. Okay, before I get started, I just want to say, do all the YouTubey things, please. Hit like, subscribe. Also, what I'm talking about here today is an opinion. It's not completely 100% factual. Well, it is as factual as I can make it from my understanding of history. But I encourage you to do reading on the subject yourself if you doubt what I'm saying. Do your research. I also want to say, don't bully anybody I talk about here. Don't bully anybody because of what I'm saying here. And just don't be rude. That's all. I think life is tough enough. And I want to talk just a hair about that. Life is pretty tough here for us. We're in crunch time. We're going to my daughter's wedding in a few days, and she is starting to feel the pressure. So there's been some unfriendly words thrown between her and her father. I'm finding out that a couple of the wedding guests have special needs that we were unaware of. Just different things we're trying to deal with in the meantime. And so there we are. So I'm going off in a ramble about something completely unrelated to the fact that I was talking a friend off an ledge last night and stayed up way too late. I feel crappy today as a result. So I'm going to be taking a nap after this. Okay, and for once, I'm not talking about Katie Joy or anything to do with Quiverfull. And I am buying a three-wheeled walker. As soon as I get to the States, I'm crocheting a bag to hang on it in all kinds of wild colors. I think I might make it look like a fish with fins and eyeballs and stuff. But that is neither here nor there. Today, we're going to talk about history. My obsession. Okay, let me start first by saying I think Johnny Depp is a wonderful actor. He's a great actor. I enjoyed him in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I really loved his turn in Crybaby. I didn't even know he could sing until that point. There's just so many great performances of his, I can't really single out one. And then there are a couple of stinkers that make me laugh, like when he played Willy Wonka. That was a huge miscasting. And I'm not sure that the choices made fit the source material from having read the book. But anyway, that's another discussion for another day. It may not be his fault that his portrayal came off as so incredibly weird. One of the things that Depp is known for is a series of films called The Pirates of the Caribbean. I've only seen parts of one. I'm just going to say that, and parts of another. I've seen bits and pieces, but I've not seen the whole thing. Why? A couple of reasons. Mostly because it doesn't fit with historically with what pirates really were in that time frame and what they were like. It was a Disney boaterized, cleaned up version. And if you like that floats your boat, great. Watch it all day long. It's not my cup of tea, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna bash you and say you shouldn't be watching it. No, not at all. But as a result, I wanted to talk a little bit about pirates today. I don't know if you've ever heard of Isle Denier, Lost Island. To me, that was one of the stories that shows pirates in a not Disney light. When my son was a little baby, we used to have a Disney sing-along video that he absolutely loved. If you had to wash dishes or whatever, hey, Brenda Lee, you could stick him in his swinging chair, wind it up, stick the video on and go. One of the songs was a song sung by the Pirates of the Caribbean. This was way before the movie. Drink up my hearties, yo-ho, and was talking about being a pirate. And there was all these animatronic pirates. And I think that that is how the general public has viewed pirates. And pirates have not been very accurately portrayed in movies. I remember Hook, which, of course, the fictional story of what happens when Peter Pan grows up and has children. Hey, hey, Saturn. So even that was a bizarre rendering of pirates, but I think it was a little closer than some of the others. So what happened at Isle d'Anier happened in the late 1850s, shortly before the Civil War broke out. Isle d'Anier was this very long island off the coast of Louisiana. It was called the translation, the literal translation is Lost Island. It was a long, skinny island out in the Gulf. It was the last island. What am I saying? Lost Island. Last island is the translation. Hey, T King. So this last island was really the last island before you ended up in the Gulf of Mexico. So was it all Cajuns like my relatives hanging out there? Oh, hell no. It was all mansions, wall-to-wall mansions with a huge hotel at the very end, this lavish hotel and a harbor. You would take a steamboat down the Mississippi through some of the bayous and some of the channels that had been cut by diverted water from the Mississippi to get to Isle d'Anier. And once you were there, you would see there was row after row of mansions. It was where the planters of South Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, and other places went when they needed their vacation. I have seen artist renderings because there weren't many photographs in those days of some of this. It was pretty fabulous. Well, what happened is in the summer, in the late 1850s, and I can't remember the exact date because my brain doesn't work like that. The summer, the island was full, wall-to-wall people, wall-to-wall workers, people that were up there that were staffing the giant hotel. Oh, you're not late. I'm just now starting to talk about it. All the millionaires were there. Many of the people that owned mansions on Isle d'Anier were there. And what happened was a hurricane came through. And it wasn't expected to come through at that point, I don't think. I read a book on it recently, and because I'm fascinated with weird history, especially Louisiana history. So here you have this enormous island. You have it being out in the Caribbean. In those days, there weren't that many ways to contact people. Not like now where you just pick up your cell phone, you call anybody in the world. Last night I called a friend in Canada using this little bad boy. But not in those days. So what happened is the hurricane direct hit on Isle d'Anier. And the floodwaters from the hurricane went over the entire island at something like 19 or 20 feet, some enormously stupid high amount. And it destroyed all of those mansions. They just folded like timber, like not timber. The timbers in them folded like matchsticks, like some giant had swept them all away. And the sand was completely bare. They swept away all the mansions. A lot of people were lost at sea. The hotel went down. Part of the pier and the harbor that was actually on the side nearest the land mass wasn't 100% destroyed. A lot of people did die immediately, and then there were a lot that died in the aftermath. But what was so particularly heinous about Isle d'Anier, besides the fact that nobody in New Orleans had any idea that this had happened, and there was no way of reaching them to let them know this had happened, what happened is the pirates showed up, the last vestiges of the pirates living in the islands around Louisiana. At one point, most of the pirates in Louisiana, well, not just in Louisiana, in the Americas lived in all these hundreds of little islands off the coast of Louisiana and back up in the bayous and stuff. These are not nice people that were known for going to town to pay their taxes and buy their bacon. These were hardened pirates. The pirates showed up at Isle Denier in the immediate aftermath, and they started robbing the people who had survived. They also started doing things like cutting up the bodies to get to things. Like if you were wearing, say you were wearing a big ring and you had died, they would come along and cut your finger off. So they reigned supreme there for some days, taking jewelry, money, all sorts of things off the people. And they were torturing some of the people who'd managed to survive the hurricane. This is not a nice, sanitized Disney anything. And this was kind of typical from everything I've read about pirates in the area. Just not very well behaved, not lawful, very lawless, making a very bad situation all the more worse. It took people coming down from New Orleans, because two people did actually manage to get to the city and tell everybody what was going on. And then at that point, relief and rescue started happening. But in the meantime, you had an island of complete and utter lawlessness. And a lot of the island had also been reclaimed by the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. And it just wasn't there anymore. Pirates were kind of a fact of life in Louisiana. And many of the poor Cajuns looked up to them as heroes, even though they did a lot of really nasty things. Many pirates held slaves. Most of them traded in slaves. They bought slaves and traded them around. So these are not admirable people, is I guess what I'm trying to say. These are the outlaws. These are the biker gangs of the time. And while they serve their purpose in some ways, because there are some still today in New Orleans that think that the pirate crews were the best thing that ever happened in Louisiana, and that's just not so. We're talking about a lot of abuse, a lot of enslavement of people, including vulnerable Native American populations, making bad situations all the worse. So that's why I kind of hate to see things like the Pirates of the Caribbean and some of the other movies that make it seem like pirates were some type of fun cultural thing. Just not so. Just not so at all. So there you have it. That's the deal with pirates and why I can't take Pirates of the Caribbean very seriously. Is it Caribbean or Caribbean? I always get so confused by that pronunciation, because living different places, you hear things pronounced so much differently. It's like I can understand Costa Rican Spanish. I can't understand Spanish. When I hear somebody from Spain speaking it, I'm just like, because it's so incredibly different. I don't even recognize it when it's spoken that well by Nicaraguans. I find their accents are problematic. But I got to say about Nicaragua, once Nicaragua is stabilized, one of the places that I have to go that ties in with this subject is Bluefields. Bluefields is a lovely community with buildings from the colonial era that was founded by pirates. U.S. pirates have founded that area. So I really want to go there and some of the other, quote, pirate communities. And who is trying to reach me like crazy? I don't know. Somebody is trying. So in a weekend that was filled with Nat speculation, KJ speculation, bad behavior just all around, and I've seen a lot of it this last couple of weeks. And calling people lobsters? Lobsters. Oh my. I am relieved to have a subject that doesn't have anything to do with any of those people. I'm kind of burned out on religion. I'm writing my book right now, and some interesting things have come up. One of the interesting things that was really kind of a thing back in the 1800s that I've seen come up again and again in Quiverfull and in various other things is the idea that women are completely 100% subservient to men. I have to tell this tale, even though it didn't have a damn thing to do with pirates. After we had left our old toxic church and we were decompressing at the Methodist church, we took a trip to see my husband's Rock Lobster. Oh, I love that song. I love the B-52s too. The one summer after we had been out for a little while, not extreme long time, I was writing an LQ, no longer quivering, but I wasn't completely healed yet of what I'd been through. And I got mightily triggered on the trip to see my husband's family. His family's from a place called Rising Sun, Indiana, south of Lawrenceburg, Indiana, a little tiny nothing dot on the map. A place with a gambling boat, a casino, a floating casino that had come up from New Orleans because it had failed. And now it is off the coast of Rising Sun, Indiana, and Rabbit Hatch, Kentucky is on the other side, I believe. So we were on our way to this place, and the nearest hotel, the one we always stay at, is a hotel that has suites that it's not actually in Lawrenceburg. It's just after you go over Route 50 and you take a right at the bridge. You hang a right at the bridge and there you are. That hotel happens to be the closest nice one to the Creation Museum in Ken Ham and his sheer insanity, his Noah's Ark, all of his BS places, which I've always wanted to go to, but I can't justify spending $30 to do it. I'm too tight with a buck. So this place was near it. So then when we went to the breakfast room the next day, we encountered scads of fundamentalist, Quiverfull evangelical Christians and their little evolution museum t-shirts and hoodies and things. So the really funny thing about all of this was that I got to observe up close after having been out for a while. There was a lady and her husband and her 4 sons that were sitting at a table near my husband and I couldn't help but just kind of cut side glances every now and then. The lady was dressed like in the evangelical womanhood fundamentalist kind of uniform. She had on a jean skirt, a loose long sleeve tee, and a vest over it, a jean vest. I was kind of surprised by that because it was summer and I wasn't dressed that warm for summer in Indiana because it's not that cold in Indiana. So this woman and her children and her husband, she served them. She waited on them. She waited on the husband hand and foot. She went and made him a huge plate with waffles because you know those fancy, semi-fancy all suites hotels have this enormous waffle maker. We can make these giant waffles. So she made him waffles. She made him coffee. She loaded his plate. She brought it to him. And then she made the kids' plates. And I'm talking about kids as old as like 14 or 15 years old. She made their plates. The second she got everybody's plates made and she got her plate made, I watched her put her plate down and go to sit down. And her husband said, "I need coffee and another waffle." So I got to watch this. She was running around so that by the time the guys were ready to leave, she'd only managed to plow through about half of her breakfast. This is a behavior that I saw again and again and again and again in my old church, in my Quiverfull church that I never participated in. I wanted to pull her aside and say, what is this lazy mooching ass's problem? He can't bestir himself to 10 feet to the waffle maker, make his own damn waffle and coffee. We're not in the 1800s. So if somebody tries to enslave you in whatever way like that, using Bible verses, run as fast as if you're running from the pirates on Isle d'Anier. But this is just so common. I've never waited on my husband like that. I never will. Sometimes I'll bring him a plate if I'm making food and it's just as easy to make him one, but it's not a hard and fast rule. You're not disobeying the Bible if you don't bring your husband his waffle and his coffee. It's just my opinion, just my rant, and I think I'm going to go ahead and go. I'm still dealing with wedding details. I have a friend, like I said, whose health is a lot worse than it was when we started planning the wedding that I have to accommodate now, and other things. Okay, you guys, have a great day. I'm going to start a new crocheted project since I finally finished this one, even though I'm almost entirely out of yarn now. I got to make a yarn run when I'm in the States. Love you guys.